r/AskReddit. What's the worst case of rich kid syndrome you've ever seen? A kid that used to work for me came in to work super pissed off one day. I asked him what was wrong. To which he replied, my ducking maid didn't make my bed again. But my dad still won't fire her. A kid that used to work for me came in to work super pissed off one day. I asked him what was wrong. I can't see my forehead. Patrick Star? I knew a guy who would do anything regardless of the fine/fee/upcharge. For example, no open parking? Doesn't matter. He'll park in the handicap spot or in restricted zones. He used to call the fines a poor people tax. I also recall one time he lost his laptop charger. Naturally, his parents overnight shipped him a new laptop. I work in a hotel, and there's tons of rich dudes who will just pay the $300 cleaning fee to smoke in the room. Duck those guys. The room reeks, and it's super hard to actually clean enough so the next guest doesn't have to smell it. We are a non-smoking hotel, you assholes. It isn't about the money, it's about not ruining things for the other guests. Edit. So for all the people saying just raise the fee to 1,000, it's really not that simple. First, a lot of people with hospitality management degrees, business degrees, and decades of experience are running these companies, and they all do it about the same. You have to imagine there's something you don't know and something I don't know about the business. I'll point out a few problems with that which I already have in some of the comments. We can't justify a fee that high if the guests dispute, which they certainly will. A fee that high will probably get lawyers involved, which is absurd for smoking, and we'd never win and we'd have wasted our time and fizz. The way we collect fees is by charging their card. Most cards would just decline anyway. The damage is already done, and there's no way to use it as a deterrent because guests don't pay attention to the rules and they think they can get away with it anyway. It would definitely ruin repeat business and possibly deter their friend's business when they have a bad experience like that. There are so many potential reasons why that really isn't an easy solution. It's a problem, but in the hospitality industry guests create problems all the time, and we have to look at the big picture regarding how to take more of their money and keep them and their friends coming back. Also, for those asking, it's illegal in my state to allow smoking in rooms or have a smoking floor, so that's out. I saw an article a while ago about the effect of charging fees. It was done on a daycare. They started charging a late fee when parents came after the closing time to pick up their kids, because the workers can't go home until all the kids have left. The hope was the fee would be a disincentive to coming late. Turns out, more parents started picking their kids up late after the fee was implemented. The social guilt for making workers stay late was actually a bigger motivator. With the new policy, parents no longer felt the same guilt if they were running late, because they figured they were just paying for the service. Probably the same principle. I had a friend who was a rich kid when I was younger. He was an only child whose parents had high-paying jobs. They weren't super rich, but they were well off. My family weren't rich, but not poor either. Being an only child, my friend got spoiled rotten, but he was pretty wise for his age. Viewing games, consoles and toys as material possessions only. Having no siblings. He just wanted friends his age, not family friends who were much older. One Christmas a relative bought him a SNES, but he already had one, so he gave it to me. I was like, hang on, this costs a lot of money. But he was like, if you practice, we can play more. Or, that's a really sweet kid. Once heard my sister's friend say to her mom, I've never worn the same outfit twice, and I don't ever plan to. How do you live without a favorite hoodie or shoes? Outfit doesn't mean item. Group of rich high school kids in Montana out driving around, drinking. Found to combines large farm tractor fingers, worth about $250K each, out in a wheat field. Decided to have a demolition derby. Got caught in the judge's chambers with the farmer, who just wanted the damages reimbursed. The high-end family lawyers asked what the hell they were thinking when they did it. The response, well, you can't put a price on a good time. Turns out that was the wrong answer. I need the ending to this. I'd say the judge put a price on it, then in the words of Deadshot, doubled it for being a pinhead. Two girls, both nice and fairly level-headed, but also just raised to damn rich. One would take a taxi everywhere in town. It was a very safe, small college town with free campus buses, and she'd taxi across campus. She lived 2 blocks away from me and would take a taxi from her dorm to my house. Google Maps says it's a full 4-minute walk. She swore she just had a terrible sense of direction and couldn't figure out where we lived. But you'd think after the first embarrassingly short taxi ride she'd throw our address into Google Maps and just walk. The other would regularly complain about people not knowing how to manage their money. It took a while to figure out, but eventually it clicked that she meant very poor people didn't know how to invest their money in stocks and bonds. Then one day we were having a conversation where she revealed she didn't think a house in Detroit in 2010 could possibly cost under $1 million. I told her I grew up in a nice $180K house and she thought I was dumb or lying. Shattered her world when I showed her my home on Zillow. When she graduated college she complained about how much stuff cost all the time. It was nice seeing her learn the value of a dollar finally. What do you think made the second girl finally come around? Was it just enough times colliding with the real world? Her parents stopped paying her way after she got a job. She was probably making $70K, $80K in her first job, but she was living in Pasadena. 2. She talked all the time about how poor she was and about how she was living in an apartment above a garage. But at the time I lived in an apartment with 5 other people and felt pretty wealthy, making $11/HR, so I wasn't exactly heartbroken for her. Had a friend in high school whose dad was uninvolved. He was raised middle class like myself and lived with his mom and stepdad. After high school he worked towards becoming an electrician and was saving for his first apartment. His dad eventually came around when he was right out of high school and started giving him money here and there when he needed it. His dad owned a large company on the East Coast and was a multi-millionaire. Soon his dad convinced him to quit trade work and gave him a job at his business. Shortly after, he was promoted to a managerial position he wasn't qualified for and paid way too much. He'd get drunk while on conference calls and nobody questioned him since he was the boss's son. His dad bought him his first home, almost $500,000, and multiple cars. He took up horse racing and quickly, we had nothing in common. Gone were the days of dumb teenage stuff. Going fishing, hiking and video games together. He quickly found a girlfriend whose dad was a multi-millionaire. She was 30 and still putting everything on dad's credit card. I couldn't keep up with their lifestyle and very quickly we faded as friends. After his girlfriend and him broke up, she told me that he was actually severely depressed and almost drove his car off a bridge multiple times. Deep down he was having issues with wanting to live up to his dad's lifestyle and standards. But losing his old friends and life, it's too bad. I haven't seen him in probably 4 years now. We tried to reconnect a few times, but it just doesn't work anymore. That's really sad. It's like his dad wanted to make up for the neglect with money. A friend of my brother is very well off. His parents offered him a $175,000 a year job in their family business to basically do nothing. He already lived rent-free in a waterfront apartment, car, credit card etc. He spent his days doing drugs and partying. He's clean and sober now, but yes, it took years and years of rehab. And even now they offer him too much. He got married and they wanted to make it crazy ostentatious. It was already pretty glam and he knows to reject it. My friend called me sobbing because her dad bought her a 2003 Mercedes-Benz instead of the 2018 one she wanted for her 16th birthday. She doesn't even know how to drive. I would kill for a 2003 Mercedes-Benz. When I can drive, of course. The insurance and maintenance on that would be a nightmare though. Where to begin? Knew a kid that was so spoiled at home that he would throw straight up temper tantrums if our group didn't do what he wanted. I remember all of us were going to a party and he wanted to go to the movies. We all voted and the party won. So we are all being cool, hanging out, and playing rock band. Dude got so duck-I'm pissed that he ended up grabbing the drums while someone is playing it and slammed it against the ground and just left walking home. Another time we were all admiring a VW bug that had gotten. He got all upset, left, and came back with his mom's Mercedes. no license to drive, and didn't even tell his mom. I remember his mom calling him obviously in trouble. And he just said, "Shut the duck up, Mom." I couldn't stop laughing for like an hour. It was like every time someone in the group had something, he had to show them up. On the spot. I've seen this kid go and buy a DS impromptu, just because someone in the group showed up with one. We stopped talking to that kid right when all of this started to happen. What a loser. LMAO pulling up mama's Merc, what a headers. Came back from a music festival in Southeast Asia. Got VIP tickets. I swear this isn't about me. One of the other festival goers is a 20-something-year-old Asian girl who looks like she is straight out of the movie Crazy Rich Asians. This chick had a photographer following her around snapping pics of her posing in front of the stage with various acts, getting in the way of other people trying to dance. She asked security if she could get them to clear a section for her to get an unobstructed view of the stage for better photos. She bought a couple of bottles, 6, for her table and again had the photographer take an incredible number of photos of her posing with her bottles of Martell and Jameson. She was incredibly rude to the wait staff, snapping her fingers, and in general talking to them like they were lower class citizens. She asked my mate and I, both Westerners, to hang with her and her mates at her table, and again have the photographer take photos of her posing with us at the table. The other 2 guys from the group, both Asian, approached us when they saw that we're at a table and it looked like we had made some friends. When they approached us, the girl and her friends got quiet, spoke amongst themselves in Indonesian, and basically shooed them away. We left them after they did that and walked over to our friends. One of the guys is Indo, and he told us that she basically told them to get lost and know your place. Lol, I can confirm this definitely happens in Indonesia. I lived there for a number of years, and the racial and financial segregation is nothing like any other country or culture I know. KL is also pretty similar. I traveled there with a Filipino friend of mine. He looks Filipino, but sounds and acts Aussie. He dresses very well. I dress very casual. In all the stores we went into, if it wasn't apparent that we were traveling together, he would have staff members follow him around. In one store I was invited to try on a $40k plus Patek. I let the staff members know I had no intention of making a purchase, but they insisted that I give it a try. He was told that they don't allow people to try on the watches. Interesting place. I have a kid in my MBA cohort that outsources his homework and projects to India. He itched and moaned when one of our professors gave him a C when he only showed up to 2 classes after he donated $10,000 to school. Overall nice guy, but doesn't really have a clue. Outsources his homework and projects to India. He is just practicing for when he goes into the corporate world. Outstanding move. A kid who would dramatically throw down his smartphone on the ground in mock frustration. Broken phones were replaced with few to no questions. Edit, for the record. His name ended with the 3rd. I did that, but with an old flip phone so it didn't break. Got a few laughs when the battery flew out, and more when I put it back in and it still worked. I chucked it halfway across a football field once, and that thing stayed intact. A friend in the dorms did this with his old Nokia. The type people joke about being indestructible. This guy was a baseball player who could throw a ping pong ball hard enough to hurt. He would pitch his phone into a brick wall, pop the battery back in and it still worked. Back in high school we were doing one of those icebreakers where we passed a beach ball around and whoever caught it had to answer the question their thumb landed on. Well, this kid who has proclaimed being rich numerous times before talking about his parents owning an own pizza place and how he drives an expensive sports car caught the ball and his question was, if you won $1 million what would you do with it? His response was somewhere along the lines of $1 million wouldn't make any difference in my life. Jesus, what a ducking power move though. An absolute god. Had a friend on the swim team that fits this perfectly. Dude was nice enough, but pampered to all hell. Parents were from old oil money and stacked for life. For his 16th birthday he got a Lamborghini and a Mercedes-Benz. When his parents wanted to punish him, they would take away the Lamborghini and make him drive only the Mercedes. For dances he would wear a $5 000 custom tailored silk suit, and he had a different one for each dance. One day when we were going to homecoming he took a look at my suit, called it cheap, and offered to give me one of his old suits. I thought he was joking, but lo and behold 5 minutes later one of his butlers came up to me and gave me a $1,000 Calvin Klein suit. When I tried to give it back to him the next day, he just laughed and told me to keep it. He swam with us for about a year before he moved away. Last I heard he's living in Germany. Ugh. Only peasants drive a Mercedes. How awful it must have been to live the low life. For real though, that guy seems like a genuinely nice person despite his background. I hope he uses it for good. He was a nice enough dude. Donated about $2,000 to the swim team when he left. Ducking like and subscribe.